Hello, everyone, and welcome to TWIG 120. We've got myself, Joe Kim, Adam Telfer, Eric Kress, and the Mishka Katkoff. Today, we're going to be covering 4 articles. First, Zynga's plan to accelerate growth in 2021 by PocketGamer.biz. Second, Blizzcon Online 2021 from The Verge. I'm definitely looking forward to hearing more about that. Third, Valheim, how a 5-person team created the most popular game on Steam by IGN. And finally, Rovio, just based upon their recent financial updates. So how are you all doing?
Well, kicking. I'm trying to change my backgrounds constantly because we're having renovation at home. So welcome to Savage Helsinki.
Nice. I'm glad your financing is going to good work of creating a great work environment.
Yeah, I like how his chair matches the boxes in the IKEA.
I know. color matching.
Color coordinated.
You can't see the walls, but we got a lot of cool stuff on the walls.
Is that the color of your logo, orange and black? Is that like the theme?
No, it's the color of Tiger King or Tiger. What was it? Yes, it is. It is.
All right, the fitness watch. Not that anybody cares at all. And the last thing the one thing I hate the most is when people on podcasts start talking about personal stuff. But I'm doing it anyway because I'm an idiot. But I am now injury free. I'm getting my bike fixed, and I am down to I think 25% body fat, and I have 10% to go. And I think I can actually do it. I know how to do it. I'm going to get it done. Thank you very much. 15% by 50. God damn it. All right, moving on.
Okay. Any other personal updates?
All right. Nothing.
Let's go to the news. So I want to start off, what I start with literally every twig. So another Supercell update. So one thing that we've been raising on Deconstructor Fun is the importance of product and marketing teams working seamlessly together. And the one thing that Supercell, as we know, they've had their marketing team sitting on the other side of the world in San Francisco. And we've kind of pointed that bringing marketing teams closer to Helsinki would be a sort of a low-hanging fruit for Supercell because it helps them to grow by actually, increasing your ability to in user acquisition. Anyway, not going into the details. So guess what? Not only marketing, but also data engineering positions open up in Clash of Clans franchises. So Supercell has 2 open positions. So anybody who's listening to this, data engineer and digital marketing, if you are in these lines of work, amazing opportunities to join the Helsinki team as either the data marketer or a data engineer for both Clash of Clans and Clash Royale. So in my personal humble opinion, a great move from Supercell and definitely going towards that direction of improving their live service capabilities. Second part, I wanted to give a public apology for JK. So I kind of called JK out as a conspiracy theorist based on his views on what Zynga and AppLovin are doing with their acquisitions of mediation platforms and attribution platforms. But fact is, and this is a fact, you're often more right than you're wrong. And whatever the streets you're walking, you're definitely hearing the right words because the word on the street tends to be close to the truth. So public apology from my man, JK.
All good. I hope, sometimes I write stuff in Slack. I hope it doesn't come off angry. Sometimes some of my guys tell me, sometimes you write stuff, it sounds angry. It's not. But speaking of conspiracy theories, though, so I've got a first update. So first, so you have fans, Mishka. So I'd like to thank Team Mishka Conspiracy Nation for emailing me this A16Z Andreessen Horowitz article titled "Breaking Down the Payment for Order Flow Debate" and basically calling me a paranoid conspiracy theorist. So this was a post from Andreessen Horowitz that it starts like, quote, "In the wake of the GameStop short squeeze, payment for order flow, the practice of market makers paying brokers to execute custom orders, has fueled no small amount of debate. Is it a tactic deployed by large capital market institutions to steal money from the less informed, or is it an enabler of low-cost, highly efficient stock trading for all?" And then this post goes on to present, in my opinion, a pretty biased view. Like, this is how payment order flow works. It's a positive practice. And, front running doesn't happen because, quote, "Not only is this empirically false, it's also illegal. Case closed." But I just want to like basically address some of the feedback about kind of being crazy, and also address this particular post. And look, everyone out there, you guys all need to make your own decisions about what you want to do, how much data you want to share. And I know there are some AppLovin and Zynga employees who aren't super happy with some of the comments that I've made. Look, I haven't said AppLovin or Zynga is planning on doing anything unethical or illegal. I haven't said that. I'm just saying that what we have is a customer adversarial relationship. But let me bring some reality to this situation. Now, I've already mentioned before on the last podcast that this type of problem with customer data impacts even great companies like Amazon. They have gotten into trouble for illegally using customer data to compete against their own customers. But let's come back to the specific issue about order for payment flow that we talked about last week. The fact is, Citadel, when we talked about the Citadel Robinhood relationship, has already been busted and fined for, quote, trading ahead of customer orders. The very issue that Andreessen Horowitz is saying is completely not an issue. And so I'll put a link in the show notes, but as their letter of acceptance in response to FINRA, the Financial Industry Regulatory Authority, has already revealed, and I'll just read a few things from here, but Citadel Securities employed pre-trade control settings and processes that removed hundreds of thousands of OTC customer orders from that logic, being the logic that they use that basically handles the order payment flow. And this is in response to FINRA. This is what they're saying actually happened. While OTC customer orders were inactive, Citadel Securities, in many instances, as part of the market-making activities, traded for its own account on the same side of the market at prices that would have satisfied the orders without immediately thereafter executing them up to the size and at the same or better prices as it traded for its own account. Goes on further. Based on this review, in 559 instances, Citadel Securities traded ahead of 415 inactive OTC customer orders. So basically, the thing that I've been talking about, they've already admitted to doing. Not only that, but if you go back to April of 2004, this is before Citadel entered this business, in what it now in 2020 controls 46% of retail order flow, okay? So Citadel's general counsel at that time urged the SEC to ban payment for order flow because it, quote, distorts order routing decisions, is anti-competitive, and creates an obvious and substantial conflict of interest between broker-dealers and their customers. Further, quote, because payment for order flow creates fundamental conflicts of interest that cannot be cured by disclosure, the commission should ban payment for order flow altogether. Again, guys, so look, I don't want to go too much more in the weeds on this. That's all.
Dude, you're fucking in the weeds, man. I can't even see the world right now. We're in the weeds so much. Let's move on, dude.
Okay, here's the point. Look, all of you guys make your own.
This is like a Mishka. This is a Mishka story, dude.
Wait for it.
The point.
Last one.
The point I'm trying to make is, look, all of you guys make your own decisions. I'm just here to warn you that when you share your data with external third parties, the stuff that's happening with AppLovin and Zynga, look, I personally think it's dangerous, but you guys make your own decisions. And I do think that, look, like some of the views from whether it's, Andreessen Horowitz, look, no hate on Andreessen. I'm sure they mean well, and they're trying to protect one of their portfolio companies. But just this point is that just because something is illegal doesn't mean companies aren't going to engage in this kind of behavior. It's happened time and time and time again. Anyway, you've been warned. So that's my first big update. Couple of quick updates after this. Second update. Turns out that as we hypothesized last week before the announcement about the Zynga Star Wars game, it indeed is a cross-platform mobile and console game. There's not much revealed about the game, but the game's going to be called Star Wars Hunters, And what we know right now is that it's going to be both mobile, iOS, and Android. And on the console side, it will launch on the Nintendo Switch, which is.
Is it just me, or is everyone like super skeptical this game is going to be any good? Why in the hell would they do it for Switch of all things? Like, I mean, no one makes money on Switch, right? That seems like a complete like. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Let's like say we're cross-platform. It's like a PR stunt more than like an actual economic decision. So, anyway, I don't know.
That's a pretty big effort, though, to spin up a console dev studio, though, right? So, I mean, it must have been.
If it's Switch, it's not. It's not. No, not as difficult.
No, I think they were using the same code, probably, right?
Huh.
Yeah. It's the specs are pretty low. Like if it would be a PC SKU would be more like if they would do a cross-platform because they would have to do all the payment system and so forth. But for this, it's just like I think it's like a startup move. You'd be like, we're cross-platform.
They got to figure out what to do with that team, right? That team has been kind of in CSR land for too long. It's
always the question, like, are you guys cross-platform? We could, and they're like, switch.
All right, guys. Hatter's gonna hat. All right. Third update from me. EA completed its purchase of Codemasters, a deal worth $1.2 billion, and that will bring racing IPs from Codemasters such as Dirt, Project Ars, Grid, and Formula One to EA.
This is the dumbest deal ever. God, if they make anything out of this, I'll be in shock. Okay. No offense to Codemasters. You guys make amazing games, but this is not a strategic acquisition. This is just disastrous.
Don't you guys think that this would have been such a good move for Rockstar, but not that
Take
great
Two?
for EA?
Take Two.
Yeah, Take Two.
I mean, Take Two needs something, right? They got no products in the pipeline, right? This makes sense for them. Totally. I agree. But even then, $1.2 billion.
Going back to making a new racing game every year.
Yeah.
Adam?
Yeah. Okay, so I just got one self-service announcement. There was some awkward social media issues this week with a WB employee. So I'm going to cover my butt here as just a little bit ahead of the curve. I'm just going to say that all my comments here on the podcast are my own, and they're not my employer's, WB's. And that all data, information, insight that we share on this podcast is coming from public sources, news articles, public data, as well as from Sensor Tower, who has given us permission. And intention here is to be critical and ask how we can do better, not to throw stones at other teams or other projects.
Really?
Yeah, of course.
Oh.
For most of us on the podcast.
Why was I didn't get the memo, dude. What's going on?
Some of us have to protect our jobs. Anyways, so please give feedback if you think we're wrong, and you should be as critical of us as we are of the topics we cover. I just want to cover my butt here.
All right, that public service announcement is just all nonsense, right?
I have to
Everything
say it.
I say is true.
I have to say it.
It's
of course,
fact.
what you say is what you believe. That's fine. Nothing that Eric says should come onto my record at all.
So this is the critical. Everybody has to go here. So whatever Eric says, it's Eric's opinion, and we did not say that. That's not even a public opinion.
All right, my only update is that Google, id Software, and Bungie are all subject to a class action lawsuit. And the claim is that the companies misled customers by saying Stadia games to be played in 4K resolution, which is exactly what I was saying this whole time, is that the claims that Google had 4K 60 frames per second were just always nonsense, because you actually played the game. It was freaking terrible. Anyway, so they're basically going after them again for misleading the public on what this service was, because this service could never be as good as they said it was, right? And so I think things get continually worse and worse for these guys, and ultimately they shut it down by the end of the year. That's kind of my guess, and then just white label it. But anyway, we'll see how this lawsuit progresses. But 4K resolution streaming, give me a break. All right, never going to happen. All right, moving on. Okay, Zynga plans to accelerate growth in 2021. After all the news that we saw the last 3 or 4 weeks, there's just nothing really going on. But this is kind of a fluff piece. Who did it? I can't even remember now. Pocket Gamer.
Yeah.
Right. And it was basically COO Matt Bromberg, who was part of the EA mafia that came over from EA to Zynga when Frank took over. Basically, was just talking about how great the year was, that they grew 50% almost, and they have 8 games that made more than $100 million, which is kind of amazing. They say they're basically continuing to focus on their existing games and then also focusing on the relaunch of Farmville and Puzzle Combat, which are actually imminent, evidently, in the next 3 or 4 months. And then they are looking at further acquisitions to build up their ad tech, but that's not really a primary focus, as we've kind of alluded to here on the podcast, which may or may not be true. Who knows? And they seem very happy with Harry Potter, which again has done quite well, given the performance of Willy Wonka, which was built by the same team. So my take on this is a typical fluff piece, basically giving some exposure to Matt, who really has not been as visible as some of the other execs like Frank and the face man of Zynga, Mr. Bernard Kim. And, basically, again, all these people were plucked from EA after Frank left and rebuilt his team from EA within Zynga's walls. And but I can't really pick it apart. I mean, I think Zynga's prospects are actually quite good for the next couple quarters at least. I am a little bit worried about scaling these games, Puzzle Combat in particular, given post IDFA, because it looks like it's going to launch, right on top of that. But I don't even know why Pocket Gamer would do this. The only reason, I guess, one of the reasons I want to talk about it is like this is a total fluff piece that Pocket Gamer gets to get in with the PR of Zynga, right? So like now they've established a relationship with Zynga, they can do this piece, and so they'll get probably more.
You do know why.
Yeah. Well, I'm just telling people why. I'm just telling people why these things exist, right? And so now Pocket Gamer gets more access to EA management or Zynga management going forward. It's kind of a typical thing.
Yeah, and sometimes it's also part of sponsorship deals, right? So let's just be real.
Right. Right. So
who won the publisher of the year? Like last Pocket Gamer event that was held in London, like back when we were all in one space, Bernard Kim was picking up that reward. So
is that right? Oh, geez,
yeah,
right.
Yeah.
That's even more incestuous. Ew. Yeah. Now I feel dirty now. Now I'm not even talking about it.
And now you're promoting this article that.
No, I am a public service announcement that this fluff bullshit happens all the time and ignore it. Right. I mean, Bromberg, look, he's a great guy. Like he's supposedly a really tough dude. So good for him. Anyway, my thing with that Zynga is I'm worried about post-acquisition after Q2. Once Peak goes pro forma, then they have to have tougher comps in Q3 and Q4, and they have to really scale these games in order to make them happen, make that happen, or do another acquisition, which I think acquisitions are getting a little harder to find that are of scale, frankly. So that's it. I just wanted to point that out. Talk about Zynga a little bit.
All right, I had to dig at least some data because this article was not an article. It was something that comms coordinator wrote and just sent to Pocket Gamer for publishing. So I dug a little bit of data, just Zynga's game revenues from last year compared to this year. And I do have to say, like, there's no way you can say anything else than Zynga is a top-notch publisher. I mean, first of all, they are live ops masters. I looked at the top 20 grossing games in their portfolio, and only 3 out of 17 top grossing games in their portfolio actually declined last year. And those 3, I can even name the games. It would be Willy Wonka declined, and Farmville, Tropic Escape, as well as Dawn of Titans. Wizard of Oz, Dawn of Titans, and Farmville. So basically, those 3 games make less than 3% of all the revenue. So meaning 17 games out of their top 20 increased in live ops last year. Secondly, they can launch and grow games. We've seen this over and over again. Merge Dragons, Harry Potter, Puzzles and Spells, great example from last year. So their UA capabilities as well as abilities to launch are fantastic. They are genre masters across multiple different studios: racing, simulation, puzzle, casino, RPG, damn near everything except strategy and shooters. Zynga has it. They have a fantastically diversified portfolio, so they're not hit by any kind of big trends. Like if casino is starting to go down, they're already diversified from it a long time ago. They're fantastic at M&A, so wherever they need to jump, they can actually do that because they can acquire companies and expand to that. And they're also really good at working with IPs. So that is something that they have going for them in the post-ATT world, because them matching an IP to any of their titles is pretty straightforward. I mean, they're already working with Star Wars. So I think what they will be acquiring next is definitely something in the ad tech that will allow them to more efficiently run the cross promotion across their internal vast portfolio of games. Without going into any, I'm not going to even say the name. Listen, JK, I threw you a bone. I was like, JK is not into conspiracy theories. And then you just ranted in a long way and warned everybody. So what I'm saying is that they have a really, really big portfolio. And with proper ad tech, proper attribution platform, they can actually make good with this sort of IDFV, like it should be working. So I think Zynga is positioned extremely well, and they're showing already to investors that they're looking outside mobile. And I think the next real step for them will be taking some of these probably casino games first, and some other more hardcore games to PC SKUs, where they will be making probably 20% of revenues from those.
I don't think that's going to work. All right, moving on. BlizzCon.
Yeah, let's talk about BlizzCon. So it happened last weekend. The major announcements, I'll quickly go through those. Like Overwatch 2 had a pretty minor update. There was no release date announced. The notes that I've got here actually come from before the conference. Things to keep in mind with Overwatch 2. They're exploring no loot boxes for monetization for that game. It's going to have a heavy focus on PvE content, so story campaign content instead of just PvP. And as well, I'm not sure if they've confirmed this recently, but there's talk that Overwatch 1 will actually receive all PvP updates that are coming to Overwatch 2. Second, we've got World of Warcraft. So they're actually continuing on that World of Warcraft classic train. They are now re-releasing the Burning Crusade expansion within 2021. So continuing that classic kind of window. And then, of course, Shadowlands, they're going to be adding a new chapter called Chains of Domination just for Eric, just for him to jump back in.
Dude, I'm already in, man. That's like the only game I'm playing right now, which is pretty sad, but I'm just not raiding. But we'll see. I'll play the Chains of Domination. Sounds interesting.
All right. Well, come play Valheim with me instead.
All right. I would do want to try that. Oh, we're talking about that later. Yeah.
Yeah. But the real notables with this conference, at least from my perspective, were Hearthstone and Diablo. Very much more on Diablo side. On Hearthstone, I've got a couple notes here. They're trying to really shake things up as much as they can. If you can see the Sensor Tower revenue, you can see that it's been steadily declining over the last few years, right? They're now trying to shift their base or core set out of ranked play and coming up with a whole new core set. And I think this is just inevitable, with the core set being effectively the same for 7 years now. So I hope they can build out a new entry point and start bringing back some of those churn players with this new core set. And the most notable change was a new mode called Mercenaries. It takes design notes actually from Slay the Spire and trading card game roguelikes, which have been showing very impressive numbers on PC and Steam. The major question for me is whether this will go the same way as their auto chess mode, which didn't really reinforce the core loop. And there really was no improvement in engagement or revenue. That declined steadily afterwards.
They cannibalize the shit out of each of themselves, right?
Right. Like you create this super engaging side mode that has no reinforcement to any of the mechanics you have in your main. With auto chess, right? Like it had its own set of cards, and purchasing new expansion packs had such a minimal impact. It had this little like bonus meter that gave you new emojis.
What do you think is going to happen? I don't even understand how this even made it to. I guess they were worried about. They're trying to improve engagement, but anyway, moving on. Sorry.
Well, but they have to change this structurally as much as they can, right? There is an opportunity with auto chess. There is an opportunity with Slay the Spire or Mercenaries mode that you could figure out a way to connect these two, but I think it's extremely, extremely difficult without breaking your live content model. And I say this because I think Slay the Spire's engagement model is actually very similar to auto chess in terms of what it will do to force that team. As players go on runs, collect more cards, add to their deck, which unlocks new synergies. That's the whole core loop of Slay the Spire. And I feel like that's very counter to how Hearthstone operates and will be very, very hard to structure within. So likely this will end up as just another blip of engagement rather than something long lasting that could actually structurally change how Hearthstone operates. Unfortunate, because I'm a big fan of Hearthstone and a big fan of Slay the Spire. Let's move forward to Diablo, which was the bigger news items for BlizzCon. So the big thing, Diablo 2 Remaster, as we called it before, got announced and is targeting PC console release by 2021. And from the videos, it looks like it's a completely faithful remaster. They're touting it right down to the pixel. You can turn on a mode that actually flips it, and you can go right back to the old original mode running the same engine. So likely this is exactly what all the Diablo fanboys, including myself, wanted. It's not going to be Warcraft Reforged again. Diablo 4 had some minor...
Well, hold on. I mean, I'm sorry. Like, do you think there's a real chance that this thing does extremely well, or is this just a fanboy, like 4 to 5 million unit type $40 thing?
I think this is just a Tony Hawk Pro Skater remaster, right? This is it will capture but
there's no business models attached to it. It's just basically a $40 product, right?
Yeah.
So Adam, when you say it's not going to be Warcraft Reforged, I mean, I'm seeing some news articles that saying it's exactly the same.
Well, Warcraft Reforged was a train wreck, right?
Yeah, I think they tried to do way too much with Warcraft 3.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like this one is absolutely faithful remaster. That they try to change a lot.
I mean, they basically shut down the team and hired these guys, Vicarious Visions, to do Diablo 2 remaster. But I don't see the upside here. But whatever, it's
a cash grab. And while they wait for Diablo 4, right, which looks deep in development, I'm not sure when it's going to be coming out. Then the design notes updates that they had, right? Like new rogue class, cool, from Diablo 1. And it looks like they're leaning more into like Destiny or World of Warcraft style MMO design in their endgame, which...
Look, I'm sorry. I'm going to, before we get to Immortals, like this was like the boringest freaking BlizzCon ever, right? Like they didn't say anything about the games that mattered, right? They spent more time on Immortals and Diablo 2 Remaster, Hearthstone, which I think is becoming less and less.
Which game matters to you?
Overwatch and Diablo are the only two games that matter to this company.
Yeah, so they gave updates. They gave
there
updates.
There was no information. Like there's no like, and it looks like these things are so far off. Like it makes me worried that Overwatch won't even come out next year. And then Diablo seems like it could be 10 years from now. Who knows, man? Like, but I guess the overlords at Activision will never let that happen.
It's Blizzard, man.
No, it's not Blizzard anymore, dude. This is Activision. It's not Blizzard anymore. It's really Activision. So Activision's in charge, and so they can't get games out. It's just as bad as Blizzard was, right? So, all right, moving on. Diablo Immortals.
Diablo Immortals also had some minor announcements. So there's no release date yet, but the conversation there really showed the design team's intent is really to become a mobile MMO. So probably good that they're partnering with NetEase and a lot of those, lineage types of games. The focus on their end game, they really talked about being more synchronous play dungeon raids, so co-op dungeon raids like in an MMO, as well as synchronous PvP events. So talked about like opening up a chest and then, a little circle, you got to defend that chest while everybody else runs in and stabs you and steals your loot. Eric is upset.
No. Actually, no, this is a surprise to me because I didn't think they would add PvP to Diablo. So I think this is actually really, really positive for the Asian skew, but this is just not going to work for the West, in my opinion. But moving on. I mean, I'd like to get your opinion on that, but...
Yeah, my feedback, I see this stuff as like icing on the cake, the stuff that you kind of use as drivers into the end game, right? To make the progression systems all worthwhile. But my notes are really all just on the progression systems. I still have flags in terms of the way that they're building out this game, because all of these systems they're talking about rely on a very, very deep progression system that scales better than traditional mobile CCRPGs. Like PvE services right now on mobile and console, PC, regardless, are extremely difficult to get right. And the rules of content consumption to system depth are the same, whether you're talking about an MMO or you're talking about a mobile CCRPG. And that's why very few in the West have actually figured out that mix properly. And I think them sidestepping loot boxes and going to a battle pass and these kind of like these ticket systems, that's inflated the reward systems. So requiring deeper progression. Focus on synchronous PvP, as well as Diablo systems being very linear, with most loot being throwaway. Scaling is going to be a lot harder than mobile CCRPGs. So I think every element being faithful to Diablo, and being player friendly puts more strain on the progression systems to be deeper and the content requirements even higher. So these are my worries. I'm excited for this. Like I love Diablo, and I think they're doing some really clever things here. So I'm not going to pass judgment on this until I can actually play. But those are really my notes. They're really setting themselves up that they have to have the deepest progression systems in order to fuel this live service. Eric?
Yeah, I mean, I was just so underwhelmed by this because even my expectations were a little bit higher than what they did. Like I expected like timing on Diablo. Like I thought Diablo 2 remaster was coming out this quarter, right? So like, I don't know what, there must be some delay there. I thought Immortal would at least be in beta during this announcement. I think that was the plan. That's been delayed, right? So they are literally like missing every date, it seems. And then they come out and they talk about the things, again, that people are most excited about, and they say freaking nothing, right? They say nothing over a 2-day period, right? So these guys are not firing on all cylinders, right? And I'm worried. I'm worried, you know, like that Overwatch is not going to make it next year. Diablo is just a pipe dream that's going to happen. I mean, one class, that's all they could come up with, right? One rogue class. I mean, come on, like that's nothing. That's meaningless to the audience. So
nostalgia, man. Diablo 1 rogue class coming back.
Yeah, I think it's just a huge disappointment for the fan base of Blizzard, and I think it's just kind of more indications that things are not going so well over there. But you know, we'll see. I'm actually excited. The Immortal thing, I'm getting more confident that this feels more like, you know, Mario. What is it? What is the Mario mobile game? It feels like a game that everyone's going to download and play, but no one's going to finish, and no one's going to need to spend in order to finish the content, and it's just going to die on the vine. Right.
What can you guys tell me about this remastered thing? Like, is it really a thing? Like, I played Diablo 2 when it came out. Like, is it real business to remaster old games, to redo them?
There have been a few that have been really successful. Like he said, Tony Hawk did really well. Crash Bandicoot did pretty well.
Okay.
I mean, there is a nostalgia factor, and I always joke is that the Blizzard fanboys, dude, they wipe their butt with $40, right? They'll just buy anything for $40, right? Like, I mean, so like there's an inherent audience that's going to buy this no matter what. And it is kind of a cash grab, but it's not going to bring new people into the franchise, right?
It was, I remember when StarCraft 1 Remastered came out and we played it at the studio, and I played StarCraft before that. And then I played StarCraft Remastered 1 and I was like, damn, this is a shitty game. Like I remembered it was amazing, but then playing it even as a remastered version was kind of like, if I would play Command and Conquer 1, which I still have in my memory, like the best game ever with the soundtracks and everything. If I played it now, I'm like, this is dog shit. Like, what was I thinking?
No, EA did make a remaster of that too.
Oh, okay.
With Red Alert, with all the soundtrack. Yeah, it actually did. Yeah, you know, did fine.
I don't think.
Okay,
that did
just
well,
asking.
but...
I don't know the business side of remastering things. So
yeah, actually, I think the same way about Knights of the Old Republic, right? Because I remember that as such a fantastic game, but I was just kind of thinking about it. I was like, I wonder if it came back today, remastered, whether I would actually think it's a great game or not. But
yeah, I'm gonna. Yeah, the court, it doesn't hold up. It's based on what you're saying. It's like it doesn't hold up. Like you know, you watch old TV shows, some hold up really well and some don't, you know?
Yeah, like E.T. would be horrible if you'd watched it again. You'd be like, that's a puppet. Like, what am I watching? And then back then, that was like the top of the notch. Somebody's moving a puppet.
I'm going to take the optimistic view, though, on Diablo Immortals. I just think that, you know, ARPG MMO does sound pretty good. And then it taps into, like, everyone wants some type of co-op mobile gameplay experience, especially, you know, as an RPG. So I totally agree with you, Adam. There's high execution risk, but hopefully they get it right.
Yeah,
and
I agree with that. I agree with
that. They're doing cross-platform and cross progression, so you can play on console and PC. I mean, I think that's pretty smart. But that's the
remastered on Immortals.
What are we talking?
We're talking Immortals now.
Yeah, you're talking about Immortals. I'm sorry.
Anyways,
all right.
Let's move on.
Moving on. So Valheim, how a 5-person team created the most popular game on Steam. So IGN reports that back in 1300 CE, the highest recorded total of the Viking population was 500K people. 2 weeks into launch, 3 million people purchased the game on Steam. And at the time, Sebastian Badilak, executive producer at Coffee Stain Publishing, said, quote, "We've been refreshing the sales report to get the latest numbers, and it's showing no signs of slowing down." And so for context, Valheim is an open world survival game with online multiplayer for up to 10 total players. It's a procedurally generated sandbox world where you start off with just a pair of pants and do the typical survival stuff of scavenge for food, and you craft stuff. Some of the difference of Valheim versus other survival games. First, the game is heavily PvE. Also, it's highly directed with specific goals and objectives. And third, a lot less conflict between players. And you can actually toggle off the ability to attack other players. So you can, so there are some PvP elements, but that's kind of configurable. Most surprisingly, the game was developed by a team of 5, starting back with Richard Svensson, just starting as a side project in his own time back in 2018. Later on, his partner Tornqvist joined in mid-2019, and then by 2020, they expanded to 5 and got a publishing deal with Coffee Stain. Anyway, congrats to the team here for doing a really impressive job and having a pretty massive success. And as a quick update, Gamasutra reported yesterday that the game has hit over 500,000 concurrent players on Steam in under 3 weeks. This made it the 3rd most popular game on Steam when it hit its peak, and also the 5th highest all-time peak on Steam behind PUBG, CSGO, Dota 2, and Cyberpunk 2077. What do you think, guys?
Yeah, I've actually been playing this game a lot, and I'm much more excited about the survival genre, like in particular. Like when you're talking there, like there is multiple different types of survival games, right? Like this is a PvE survival game. There's also PvP survival. I was actually playing Rust a lot just before moving over to Valheim, and it's so refreshing to go into a world where it's nice and safe, and I can have a nice, fun time, build up my things, and have clear goals without a little kid coming in behind me and stabbing me in the back and stealing everything. So yeah, no, it's a great game. It's like a really refined Minecraft game, and really like CCU and playtime look incredibly impressive on this title, right? Like looking at playtime from Steam Spy, 20 hours median playtime in less than a month of being launched. That's impressive. So that speaks to probably some very, very strong engagement underneath. So this could be a very strong live service. Personally, I'm actually pretty surprised by the response, because I think there's a ton of really good PvE focused survival games on Steam that just never got this type of traction, like Satisfactory. So just to see this game blow up, it's like, wow, okay, what was it that actually blew this game up? Right? Was it theme? Was it execution? What was it? I don't really have any real solid ideas. Like it's a solid game, but it's not as if many of the other games on Steam are that much different, right? In terms of my takeaways here, I think the only thing I would say is it puts a little bit of wins in the sails of Microsoft's strategy. If you've been paying attention to it, I think it's like Sea of Thieves. Forget the other game that they have about kind of growing up in a garden. But a lot of these PvE sandbox games that they're moving towards, the genre is growing and it's targeting the right demographics. And I think Valheim is just the type of games that they're shifting their studios towards. And I think this shows that there's going to be continued healthy interest in this genre. Eric?
Yeah, I is there any like monetization after the fact, or is this just a $20?
I'm sure they might do some expansions. Like it might be the ARC model where they just throw some expansions quarterly, something like that. Speculation, but
yeah, I mean, it was for me as an old man, it was easier to pick up and play. It's kind of guiding you through kind of the early stages of what the game's about, so that kind of helps. So I don't know. I'm going to play it. Stan Kwan invited me to play, and so we're going to try to play it tonight and goof around and check it out. So it's very cool.
Cool story. All right, last one. Rovio in 2020. So this is from their financial report. And before we jump in to reviewing this, there's actually a hot update. So Iron Source acquired a video and playable ad platform, Luna Labs. This is just recently from TechCrunch as we're filming this. So Luna Labs is a platform allowing app developers to create and manage video and playable ads. We had actually their CEO, Stephen Chard, on the podcast, so you can go in and check that one out. So congrats to Stephen Chard, the CEO, John Wright, Kelly Chu, all my people at Luna Labs, and of course our friends at Iron Source for a fantastic acquisition. Let's jump into it. So Rovio in 2020. In short, revenue was down slightly, just like with Supercell, but their EBITDA was up nearly a double, unlike with the Supercell's financials. The weird part about looking through the report is that they paid dividends of 12 cents per share, which was up from 9 cents last year. And likely this is due to Rovio's kind of very family-heavy ownership. And this is what I would do with my company as well. I would naturally take dividends out of it, but not typical in my experience from any kind of like a gaming and tech company overall. So there was this sort of a CEO message. I mean, like in every report, and this was reminiscent a lot of the Supercell CEO's message. But essentially, their new CEO, Alex Pelletier-Normand, I can't pronounce French names, but APN. Let's call him APN. He's the ex-head of games, ex-Gameloft COO. He's been working at Rovio for a little over a year, perhaps, and is now nominated since the beginning of the year as the CEO. He's also actually a member of the DOF Slack channel, so you can ask him any questions there. Yeah, so be careful. Anyway, key messages from his post. Rovio is focusing on three things: casual games, their strong brand, as well as strong balance sheet. He talked about AB2, which was up nearly 50%. Which was up by I have the number somewhere. According to Sensor Tower, is up by 6%, but it's important to talk about AB2 because it makes nearly 50% of all portfolio revenues for Rovio. He talks about Angry Birds Friends, which is a very, very, very old title. I think it launched in 2011 or 2012, and it actually had its best quarter since 2018. So the live op team on that did some kind of a voodoo magic, or I don't know what happened, but it was up. He talks about the new studio that they established in 2020 in Montreal. The studio, I'm quoting here, is exploring trends that will drive the games of tomorrow, including games being used as social networks, the switch towards post-platform paradigm, and the emergence of the metaverse. So,
oh my God.
So
heaven help us. Rovio making a metaverse game. Jesus.
No. Okay, so before, and please keep in mind, there are my opinions and there's Eric's opinions after listening to this.
Do you agree with the metaverse?
I would say that this is the loftiest statement that I've seen, and I see a lot of pitches and stuff like that. So it's definitely a very, very.
You need to crawl before you can walk. You can't just go from doing Angry Birds casual to freaking the metaverse. I mean, that's just nutty, dude.
I don't even know. Yeah, what
I believe in the metaverse. I believe Epic can do it. I can believe Roblox can do it. Hell, even EA. Nah, EA.
But anyways, he talks about the acquisition of Copenhagen studio that is shipping Darkfire Heroes in April. So the acquisition of the Copenhagen studio, that is an ex-wargaming studio, and they inherited that project. And they are seemingly being able to turn that project around because there might be a reason why wargaming dropped the studio. Ooh. Anyway, towards the end of the year, he talks about shifting Stockholm studio strategy from mid-core towards advanced casual games to build upon the experiences of Angry Birds 2. So Stockholm Studios, the actually the one responsible for Angry Birds 2, and them focusing on similar type of advanced casual games makes all the sense in the world. Regarding ATT, I'm quoting ATM. He's saying, "We are ready for this change." On the M&A front, I'm quoting again, they're saying that we engage with companies that have innovative games, clear synergies, and talented teams that share our vision of the future. So that's basically Rovio's M&A strategy in one sentence. Naturally, this CEO message wasn't as informal as Supercell's CEO blog post because Rovio is a public company. What's interesting is that they actually changed the company mission. So it used to be to inspire people by crafting the best games and entertainment in the world. And the current Rovio mission, that was it wasn't at least publicly stated that they changed it, is to craft joy with player-focused gaming experiences that last for decades. Okay. And of course, that reminds you of the Supercell mission of create games that are played for years and remembered forever. So very, very close to others. Anyway, I'm just gonna go quickly through through everything. I'm not gonna go deeper into the portfolio analysis. Their portfolio was up a bit. As I told, some of the games were up. They launched a new game, Small Town Murders, clearly having good RPIs, as well as the Sugar Blast that they launched not in 2019. But the problem is that they haven't been able to scale at least as quickly as they were expecting, most likely. There were several games that were cut in the soft launch, and there are several more reskins coming in. As I was looking through the Sensor Tower data, there were games like Lily Blast, which is probably very close to a combination of Dream Blast and Lily's Garden. But the big thing is that they still have Hatch, and they actually had a big statement here is why they didn't make as much money in the end was Hatch, and they talk about alternative financial structures and partnership that they were exploring for Hatch, and now how they focused on Hatch Kits. We've all covered this here. They talk about restructuring Hatch, and the new cost level is actualized from June 2020. So it's apparent that they cut a lot of headcount, and now Hatch is not draining the company as much. So in short, I'm going to cut it from here. As my take is, Rovio is actually an undervalued company. Their market cap is 495 million euros. Their revenues are 272 million euros, and their profit is 47 million. And when we think about great publishers, I went through the Zynga before. It's live services, growth, genre mastery, and diversified portfolio. Rovio has kind of mixed results on these. They have mixed results on live ops, great results in Angry Birds 2, great results in Angry Birds Friends, but then in the others, it's not that great. When you think about their portfolio, it is not that diversified. And actually, when you look at the diversification towards RPGs and other genres, they haven't worked till date, even with the Angry Birds IPs on top of them. And overall, their portfolio, I mean, if you start going through it, it's very Angry Birds heavy, and they seem to be very good at launching and making Angry Birds games, but they haven't really proven out that they could do other than Angry Birds games. And even the reskins of successful Angry Birds games are not flying off the shelf. It's mainly the Angry Birds versions of them that are doing pretty well. So if I would do my 2 cents based on this financial report, it's of course divest from Hatch, which they are doing already. It would be, I would say it's a question mark on how well they can execute on mid-core, especially since they're jumping in now as the ATT is coming, and it's very difficult to scale mid-core games with limited data. And of course, it's a question mark, as we discussed, these long shots of exploring the future trends, the trends of tomorrow, the metaverses. I think, as Eric said, it's really important to execute in where you are and then probably move forward from that. But overall, definitely an undervalued company.
I'm actually not arguing with you on this one. I think they are an acquisition candidate because I think people could do better. I think other managers could do better with this asset is what I think could happen, right? I think it's a huge asset. But they keep playing from the old playbooks, right? They want to go more casual. Like they have a game in soft launch called Angry Birds something again.
Angry Birds Journey. Yeah.
Journey, and it's actually a more casual version of Angry Birds. Are you joking? Like, no, that's not what we want, right? That's not what we want, right? That doesn't make any sense. So the good news for them is that brands might be a big thing post IDFA. Like they may have value here. And if I were someone that was acquiring companies, I would. I don't know how hard it is to acquire a company like this, and actually makes changes and fire a lot of people and make things happen. But that's what it would take. And you leverage those brands, you acquire another team. This is my strategy for them, right? Leverage your brands, right? Find teams that can make contemporary games that make fucking money on mobile and give them the IP to build these games and to take it forward, right? Because it doesn't seem to be working, making the same game over and over again, banging your head against the wall. That's what doesn't make sense to me. And the metaverse, are you joking? Stop even talking about it, right? Like that's not going to that doesn't bring confidence to the investors that you guys are out there spending money against the metaverse. You're out of your minds, right? Stop that immediately, right? That PR is bad PR for investors, okay? But I think you're right. I think this asset is actually worth something, but I still think it's being mismanaged, to this day. I think creating the same game over and over again is not the right strategy. building a racing game on mobile is ridiculously stupid. And don't get me started on Hutch or Hatch or whatever the hell that thing was that was made no sense to begin with anyway.
What racing game? What racing game are you talking about?
The Angry Birds racing game. I don't know, whatever that racing game was. The Mario Kart stuff.
That was a long time ago.
Yeah, that was a long time
I know, but this is the type of strategy that they
Eric really holds a grudge.
Yeah, that game was called Angry Birds Go, and that was released back when I was at Rovio, and that was like 2013.
Oh, so you were at fault.
Yeah.
This always goes back to me.
Yeah. Anyway,
but I would say like Rovio is one of the few companies like they are leveraging their brand, right? Like there was a point there where pretty much all of their internal projects were an Angry Birds plus something, and they were, acquiring or partnering with studios to try to leverage that, right? Like that's how Angry Birds RPG or Angry Birds Epic was built, right?
And the racing game too.
The racing game. So there you go, Eric. They did your strategy, and now you hate them.
No. I'm saying the first thing you do is you don't put a game with your IP in the racing category, right? Because the racing category is trash, right? Stop making racing games, all right? Why aren't they owning the puzzle genre? Why aren't they involved in casino? Why aren't they involved in leverage the brand for casino? It's a big brand, right? Why? I mean, that's better than doing a racing game, which never had a chance of making money. But
that was in 2013.
No, I'm
might as well do Angryheim, Angry Bird Survival.
Yeah,
and they basically sat on their own laurels, and they did not acquire and build new studios with new experiences. Right? This actually game that's in soft launch is actually exactly something that I would try to do. I don't know if they're going to support it the way it needs to. The metrics look decent in fucking soft launch. Darkfire Heroes.
Yeah, but the metrics on their puzzle games look pretty good as well. Like if you look at the RPIs on Sugar Blast, I don't know if it's called Sugar Blast, but something with
oh, you're out of your mind.
If you look at the RPIs for the Small Town Murder, that's they're also not half as bad. So I think the
same comment I made to you last week. If it was true, then they'd be able to scale these games with UA, right?
Well, it depends on how well you monetize. So it's usually. That's the big question. So usually when companies say like we have pretty good RPIs, we have pretty good numbers, to some extent, if you're unable to push more user acquisition, that means you're not monetizing well enough. And why you're not monetizing, sorry, it might be because of lack of content. That leads to lack of retention.
But you just said the RPIs are good. The metrics are good
on a certain scale.
Stop mixing words. If the numbers are good, then you support it with UA. If it's not good, you fucking dump it. And that's what they're doing.
Things change. The more you scale, the more the numbers change.
Okay.
As you increase the size of your audience.
Nonsense. Look, I think Rovio is a good asset. For $500 million, that seems far better than some of the other stuff that's been acquired recently.
Yes, I agree.
I think the brands themselves are worth that, probably. So I think
we agree. On this. We agree. Rovio is undervalued.
If I see another press release on the metaverse.
Angry Blocks.
Goddamn mind. Angry Birds Metaverse, right? Come on.
Next week we have to do League of Legends Wild Rift. We have to do the Metaverse, and we have to do blockchain all at once.
I have one more thing. So my first day at Rovio back in like 2012 or 13, I don't remember, like long time ago. I was just pretty new. I came in and I was having a meeting with my manager, and a guy came in through that room into a room, and he was like, I don't know what he was doing, but he would start talking to me about stuff. And I was like, so what do you do here? And he's like, well, I'm building a bank, like a real bank. And we're going to call it a piggy bank, bad piggy bank. And I was like, this was like when Angry Birds was the highest thing ever. And they were trying to do everything. And I was like, where am I? Like the guy that had no idea what banking industry is just came to me and said he's building a bank. And then he left. I was like, all right.
To build a bank or what?
Yeah. He was so fired up, and he was telling me that he's building a real bank where people can put in money, and talked about cryptocurrency and whatever. And I was like, okay, all righty then. I thought this was a gaming company, but that was back in the days. And
I'm sure. Yeah. It's not like that now.
Yes. I can assure you nobody came to me and were telling me that they were building a bank or any other type of craziness. So all power to them. Undervalued.
Yeah, I think we all agree. They're probably in play.
I got to go to another call, but it's good talking. Until next week.
Good talking. See you guys around.
Subscribe.
Time to
Yeah.
Subscribe, rate, send something, do something, and see you next week.
Yeah, just review bomb us, please.